Nigeria's former vice president and the 2023 presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has written to the National Assembly proposing a constitutional amendment, seeking a 6-year single term for the president and state governors. Atiku has also suggested that presidency is rotated between the north and the south, amongst other recommendations. We'll be joined this morning to discuss some of these recommendations, and we're joined by the chairman of African Democratic Congress, Lagos State, George Ashiru. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, my sister. I'm happy Independence Day as well to both of you and to the entire crew of News Central.
Happy Independence Day to you as well. Now, this will not be the first time we've seen a recommendation for a 6-year single term for the presidents and for the governors. And I think the first way to kickstart the conversation would be that to ask you if this is a thought process that you align with.
Personally, even though I had not initially thought about it, but when it was presented to me as an argument, and then with the necessary processes of deductive logic, my opinion is that it's not a good idea. It may seem to make sense on the surface. It may seem to be a patriotic action, you know, trying to get all of Nigeria invested in being part of this nation. But it removes the critical reason why we're not doing well as a nation, and that's leadership. So whether you do 10-year tenure, 1-month tenure, 6-month tenure, nobody seems to talk about the fact that it seems to be seeking power rather than performance. You know, again, we've forgotten that we have tried the parliamentary system, we've tried the monarchy prior to that, we've had the military in power, and then we are now using, U.S. presidential system mixed with a little bit syncretically with a bit of our traditional and cultural methodology of government. And all of this, there's one single factor. The same people have been in power, all of this, and they've tried different ways, and we have not gotten the results. So I don't think that the idea is once you rotate power in 6 regions, once you make a presidency, see, if you give a person 6 years of power, they will fight hard to get it. And the impunity will be greater because they know that they no longer have to come back to meet the citizens for their votes. They will do whatever they want to do within a period of immunity in 6 years. Whereas 4 years, I mean, if you send a child to university and you expect them to graduate and become professional in 4 years, why can't a well-prepared leader also make impact in 4 years? And why do you have to reinvent the wheel? Why do people get into power and they feel that they have to jettison all the ideas of the past, all the infrastructural development of the past, economic policies of the past, and start afresh, which then makes them want to have 2 terms? So I think that, you know, we're putting the cart before the horse. What Vice President Atiku, retired or past or former, should be focused on is how we are going to redeem the image of leaders of this country, how we're going to redeem the image of the leadership in political party systems, and the way we choose our leaders, you know, focusing on grabbing power rather than performance and getting results.
Yeah, one of the arguments that was put forward, you know, when proposing this bill, if you remember, I think it was in June or July, Ikenga Ugochinyere in the National Assembly put this bill forward, and one of the arguments was that it reduces the pressure, you know, on confusion with regards rotation. You know, since we can simply say that, you know, it just goes between the north and the south. So quickly, you know, share your thoughts on that one. You know, is that going to be helpful if we had a 6-year presidential term, you know, and we simply just agree that once the north is done for 6 years, it moves to the south, and once the south is done, it goes back to the north? Does that reduce in any way the tension concerning rotation that we're currently dealing with?
There's a principle in sociology called acts of love. There are about 4 or 5 of them acts of love. So if a person that needs a sacrificial venture from you is not getting that evidence of your being able to sacrifice your time and energy to take care of them, and you want to throw money at them and say, look, I've given you money, so that shows you I love you. Well, the person doesn't want money. So the problem in Nigeria is that it is the political sector, demography of this country that's putting the pressure on the people. What the people want is result. What the people want is performance. What the people want is get this inflation down, make food available. And it would not matter if a donkey was president of Nigeria at that time. Nobody will care what tongue, what part of the country you come from, what religion you practice, as long as we go. You see, after 64 years, I'm tired of hearing this argument from a political sector. I'm tired of us always focusing on issues of power, how to get power, how to rotate power. And people are suffering and dying. And young people are tired and protesting. And all we can get is come back with this same old tired argument that once we rotate power, suddenly people will become better at performance. Suddenly people will become better president, become better governors, and they will do well. Now they are in their states. What are they doing? Local government chairmen are not under the pressure of rotation. What are they doing at local government level? President, but governors are already in their own states, where they are from their people, by their people. What are they providing for their people? That is what is important. The presidency will no longer matter if governors are doing very, very well and local governments are delivering these goods that we're all saying is democracy. So I do not buy that argument. I think it's a distraction. It's power grabbing. It's focusing on power. It's still focusing on, I'm a political party leader. We know that power is important. But you see, we are all here because of the people. And what the people want right now is productivity, performance, jobs, employment. They want to be able to feel safe in the... Look, Usadoge, my brother, you gave us a preface to this event, to this discussion. And look at all of the important things you shared with us. Multidimensional poverty. Does it have anything to do with where you come from or what religion you practice? The fact that poverty is very high, Lagos State, for example, is still listed as one of the states that is least livable. What does that got to do with the presidency? It's a lot to do with the fact that the people elected, even at the state in Lagos, are not giving back what people expect of them when they give them their votes.
All right, let's then talk about the role of education, because we've seen that in past elections, one of the issues that have oftentimes come up would be talking about the validation of certain certificates. So now one of the suggestions is to insert a paragraph in section 65, subsection 2AI to read, evidence of certificates of educational qualifications of a candidate shall be submitted to INEC by the candidate in the event of loss of his or her educational certificates. But another angle would be that they want OND to be the minimum certificate achievable as opposed to what we currently have, which is the SSC. So is this, do you think that this would impact the quality of persons who aspire to serve in the capacity of the highest office, really, that they can't serve in the country?
No, you don't. My sister, you don't get leadership quality through certification. You get leadership quality through experience, exposure, passion, and interest. The right kind of mentorship, the right kind of attitude. You know, long before the white people came into this country, we were practicing various ways of government and we were running our societies very well. You know, the level of education of Nigerians in the early 60s and even in the early 70s, relatively low compared to what it is now. Yet, there was orderliness in Nigeria in the 70s. Anybody who's grown up in the 70s will be able to attest to this. There was orderliness on the street. There was a sense of order and a sense of decorum and, you know, methodology of running our various civil service organs. So the question really should not be so much on this certification. If you put, you know, touts in government and they're passionate about government, they will deliver results. If you put PhD holders who know nothing about or have empathy or emotional intelligence or have the right kind of social intelligence and relationship management, they will still fail. So I think, again, that we are, see, in the UK, there was once a Prime Minister of UK, I think it's John Major, you know, who didn't have a university degree. And he was Chancellor of the Exchequer, which is the Minister of Finance, and he became Prime Minister. And he was the first who did not come from Ivy League school, you know, had all these beautiful certifications. And the ones that went to Ivy League schools, they were, look, Britain has just got 5 Prime Ministers in 6 years because the British people don't take nonsense. All of them are Ivy League people, and yet they're complaining they're not good in leadership. So sometimes we focus so much on certification rather than capability. So what we have right now, I accept the fact that, yes, a little bit over primary school, but leave that to political parties. Let parties decide if people qualify to need their various tickets. It's not something that the Constitution should focus too much about. The party can set its own standard. For example, African Democratic Congress can say, you must be graduate before you can run for governor. We don't need the Constitution to impose that on us. That is something that can be done, you know, at the political party level in order to set the standard for those who come in. We can't just set the standard around money, bring 50 million for nomination for. How about the standard in terms of capacity? capability, experience, exposure, antecedents. These competencies are more critical right now in Nigeria that we're looking at. And the voters really tired of all of these distractions and diversionary tactics and talks. In our opinion, this is not answering the key question: how do we bring down inflation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have a huge task, ahead of them. We still have, the worst inflation figures we've ever experienced. And I don't know if the excuse that, well, we're making reforms and things will get better in a while, if that would last, or if that excuse will be good enough for Nigerians for the next couple of years. I also want to talk about, the idea of constitutional reforms. They're talking about the 30-day youth conference, and I asked earlier, that will it have sounded better if Mr. President had admitted, or somehow, some way, said that he noticed that the elections in Edo State and in 2023 weren't necessarily the best, and we're going to continue to work towards electoral reforms to strengthen our leadership recruitment process, and also constitutional reforms to give the states more power, to reduce the burden on the federal government. Those little details here and there, will those things have been more beneficial as a discussion currently in Nigeria than the idea of a 6-year presidency or a 30-day youth conference?
Absolutely. Again, one of the things that the people have learned is that Nigeria is full of committees and conferences. We have committees and conferences, and we have constitutional conference, we've had traditional conference, we've had the conference of the skies and in the heavens, and there are policy documents hiding everywhere. But do you know why we cannot implement them? Because we don't have the competency. The reason we can't implement this is because we don't have the competencies. The people who are to implement the various ideas from the talk shops are not competent enough, interested enough, passionate enough, patriotic enough to implement them. So really, the president's focus should have been in also in your report, which seems to have died in natural death because you don't hear about it anymore. See, you start something, you don't finish it. You start another thing, you don't finish it. These are the problems of Nigeria. Inconsistencies, not just in policies, inconsistencies in ideas and ideologies, and implementing of cherry picking which one we're going to implement. So now we are talking about having this conference, having that conference, making this reform, making that reform, whereas the key thing is the economy. You see, the U.S. electoral, the U.S. elections that are coming up right now, there are two key issues that all the candidates are focused about. It's about immigration and it's about the economy. And the economy is obviously what's critical to people. So what is important is how to bring down the cost of living. The only job the president has right now is to bring down the cost of living. Every other thing is not a priority until most people can eat and people can think. Then they will consider the meaning of all of these various highfalutin ideas that we're jumping up and down and we're getting excited all about. And it's all focused on power grab rather than service. That is where I stand. That's what me and my party and people who of great intelligence stand, that it's time for us to come back to the grassroots. The key thing, the reason people are voting you into power is to reduce their problems and to make them be able to fulfill Abraham Maslow's minimum: food, clothing, and shelter. We take care of that, bring constant reforms. Look, it's October 2nd already. As the fuel price come down, we are hearing by October 1, this will happen. Has it happened? That's what we're waiting to hear.
Well, we'll keep waiting. I think we'll wait for a while, but I agree with you, and I certainly want to see lower fuel prices. I don't want to have to live a worse quality of life than I did last year, and I'm sure that that's what a number of Nigerians express, is what the young people try to express when they're hitting the streets and when they're dissenting with the government of the day. I mean, these are ongoing conversations. George Ashiru, thank you so much for joining us, the chairman of the African Democratic Congress, Lagos State chapter. Thank you so much for your time with us. We look forward to having you again.